It must be Friday because Bob and myself are here talking contact centers, customer service, and God knows what else. Bob, how are you, man? Good to see you.
Good to see you also. I ran in this morning with my Grizzlies shirt on because I was out up until about 10 minutes ago and wasn't in the office. So I haven't changed it into anything that's probably appropriate for a podcast. But hey, we're number four in the league and number two in our division. So right
You got,
behind your Oklahoma City boys.
hey, both of us, we are having a heck of a year. Same thing. I ran in, I still got my coat on in the office, but it's good to be a Thunder fan, a Memphis town,
It is a good time to be a Thunder and a
small,
Memphis fan.
small town team. So
Yeah,
it is awesome. One of us will win this title one of these days, and it'll be awesome.
yeah.
Bob, I especially enjoyed our conversations the last couple of episodes because we were talking the things both of us really care deeply about people. I'm a recovering technologist. People is people, people is where my heart is. I don't know about you, but I was struck by all the comments and people's reaction to whether it was when we were talking about can you teach empathy, can you kind of learn it, and then even our conversation about leadership, let contact center employees be themselves. What struck you with some of the reaction we got from those conversations?
Yeah, it was interesting that empathy is such a not an unknown, but is defined by differently by different people,
Right,
right?
right.
And whether or not it can be taught, I don't believe that I think we said last time I don't believe that I can truly have empathy through training,
Right.
but I can learn that there are times for empathy that I should be empathetic, and there are certain situations where I definitely need to be that.
Yeah. And and which then leads me to what I'd like to talk about today, which is kind of this leadership crisis. Because one of the things that you see in the data and in what you hear from contact center employees at large is it is such a crazy time. There's all this technology stuff. The people side of it, customers are a little more cranky. And more than ever, the leader is important. The cliche, people who don't leave companies, they leave bosses, or maybe I butcher that. I think it's more true than ever today. And at least based on what I see in terms of employee engagement in the contact center, employee engagement period, but in the contact center and customer service, retention or attrition rates, or how you kind of look at it, I think we're missing the mark there. And so I thought maybe we can be constructive today and talk about what people actually need from their leaders. I think you sent me an article, I think it was in the last week or so. Would love to dive into, this is work you've spent decades doing, and I've always kind of really, 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 really loved your stuff when it comes to this. How are you thinking about it these days in the age of AI and all this massive change?
Well, you nailed it. That I believe that relationship with with my closest manager has the biggest impact on whether I'm happy in my job or not. The article I sent you was from Gallup, and they asked two questions that were interesting to me. They asked what leader has the most positive influence on your daily life?
Mm,
And so in the contact center, the expectation from me would be that's my supervisor or my team lead or maybe my manager, depending on how the call center is set up. And then they ask, please list three words that best describe the person that contributes to your life. So it wasn't contributes to your job, it was contributes to your life.
mm.
And I think that also is of importance. But what do you give me what your answer to that is? Like, what do you think what attribute do leaders have leaders contributed in your life?
Man, I think safety will be the first thing that comes to mind. Like the work can be stressful and it can be all kinds of things, but I found that whether you like it or not, you take work home. Doesn't mean you're working at home, but like the stressors and the things, it's going to show up when you're at home. When I've had leaders who've been able to create a safe space where I'm free to express and say certain things. Bob, I was talking to, give you an example. I was talking to a mutual friend of ours. I won't mention his name. And he said to me, he was talking about what he wants to do next in career and what have you. And he said to me, like, he says, I screwed up. When I was talking to my leader, I said to my leader that I have 2 young kids. At the time, he now has 3. And I don't want to work 50 hours a week. And, his perception is that comment he made, and he was talking to a leader who works 70 hours a week.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But that comment he made, he believes has put him in this back burner, and the relationship is down there. And I felt very sad because, I think I want a place of safety where I could say the thing to my leader, like the unpopular thing, and they could disagree with me, but I want to feel like that's not going to have. I could talk crap about the company to my leader and feel like that's not going to impact me. But if I don't have that, it just piles on the stress. So to me, that feeling of safety and trust and that bond is always important to me. Whoever.
So it's interesting that you use the word safety. That makes sense to me. And what you described is what I believe that we all want. We want to feel safe with our leaders. The 4 words that came out in this study was the first one was hope.
Mm.
And so hope was 56% of the people in some way came up with the concept of hope. It stands out as the dominant need. And it tied to positive leaders. And then the second one was trust at 33%. The third one was
And
compassion.
for those watching on Spotify, whatever, I'm sharing this so you can follow along, and we'll put the link for those who are on audio only. Go ahead, Bob.
The compassion was 7%, and stability was 4%. So it's interesting to use the word safety because you could take all 4 of those and wrap those inside the word safety, right?
Yeah.
I have hope that who I am and where I am in my life, that you're going to support me as a leader. And so we've all been there. When you're young and single, working 50, 60 hours a week may not be a problem. Or it may be that you're at the place in your career where you want to move up.
Right.
And so being that person is who you want to be. But when you got 2 or 3 kids at home and your work-life balance has changed, you want something different. And what you hope is that you can say that.
Yes.
You can actually adjust your world for the time being, because it could be that 3 or 4 or 5 years from now, that changes again. And now I'm going to hope that you support that. The trust factor is the one that we talked about a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
And that one is, do I trust you? I believe that it is rampant in the contact center that we don't trust our employees to do the right thing.
Yes.
But you and I were talking off camera this morning about knowledge management a little bit, and about how the change in the contact center is going to change the job of the agent. So perhaps the trust there will change. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. I think the conversation Bob and I were having was, we're talking about this idea that, right now it's this relationship where the supervisor is like, I'm going to give you all the scripts, all these tips, because you're going to follow this instructions and you're going to do all of that. But the accountability is on the rep. And so the rep is behaving out of fear. Like, oh, I'm going to make sure I do this and I do that because you're there. Well, as we're using more and more in AI, we're now, it's the AI that's feeding me the knowledge. It's the AI that is telling me what I should say, what I should do, and actually executing some of those things themselves. Well, this relationship changes. This now means me, the agent, has to trust you, the manager, that the thing that this thing is feeding in is accurate, that you're doing good content cleaning and you're updating all of those things. And I think it's going to be interesting how we pivot, because it's not going to be perfect. And the day when you don't, the management or whatever, you don't update the information and I now give wrong information out because of the thing you're sending me, I hope they give us the grace that we didn't give them. Like, I hope when that day comes and they're like, I just gave this customer wrong information because the AI thing you built is not it's not then accurate. And I think building that foundation now of this two-way trust where there's grace on both sides and trust. And that means, by the way, like not to yeah, like the I think it was Kierkegaard who said like the opposite of sin is not virtue, it's grace. So it doesn't mean like it's not perfection. Not That's not what it is. It means that you allow a little bit of, like imperfection. There's imperfection in the data. And I think we have too often try to make this relationship about if you do anything wrong, say anything wrong, there are consequences for it. And I hope we begin to change that because we're going to need to, even in the age of AI.
Yeah, it that grace that's I love it when one of us or when I read something where somebody has taken a word that doesn't normally fit in the business idiom
Yeah.
and makes that part of who we should be. I think the word compassion, which was the
Mm.
third one, is a form of what I've talked about. Do you love your agents?
Yes.
I've had managers in training sessions come back and say, not only do I not love my agent, I don't even like them. And we've all had employees that work for us and employees that we work for that we don't love them because I don't even like them. But compassion is back to that safety word.
Yeah.
Compassion is about taking me for who I am and helping me become better. And then the last one, which was a small level, was stability. And
Mm.
what's interesting about that one to me is you know, I I think we went through a time pre-COVID and then a little bit in the middle of COVID where jobs were plentiful and people were moving around jobs a lot. Like people were switching jobs a lot.
Right.
And then we went to a place where there weren't a lot of new jobs and stability became an issue. But I think we're back now where we're going to see that stability in a contact center. It's not
Right.
necessarily going to just be something that happens. It's going to be something that we have to make happen through the relationships that we have with our agents, through the technology that we provide them to make those right answers that you're talking about. So the contact center change that happens over the next 5 to 10 years is that the script flips to being about a people-based business
And
that
then,
we've always been, with technology just supporting that instead of a technology-based business that agents are supporting.
Bob, I think that last comment you just made, I think it's what's being lost on people. Like, and we'll do another show about this. It's becoming more and more clear to me that you think this AI thing that's coming is about technology. And I think this AI thing is going to make this job even more about people. Like, because what it does is today the job is too much about, focusing on making all the technology work and finding this. If we're successful and use AI to get that out of the way, the difference between you and the next company is just going to be all about this humanity. So focusing on this is so important. Before we go, I would love your perspective on this concept. Our friends at Fifth Talent, Brian Kearney and team, we've chatted with them. I think it's a Gallup poll, but there's a difference between meaning from work and meaning at work. I hadn't had that language before, but it really helped me. And so what they say is, the meaning I get from work is that the work pays me a salary that allows me to, when I am not at work, to enjoy a kind of lifestyle and all of that kind of thing. And I think a lot of leaders end there, meaning from work, but that's not, but then there's meaning at work. So meaning you're not going to, there's no amount, all the money in the world you're going to pay me is going to help me derive meaning from work. It's not going to fix my meaning at work. When you get to the meaning at work, which is the things we've been talking about here, which means the work I am doing with the people I'm doing it with, my leader, with my all of those things, I derive independent meaning from that. Like I'm cared for, I feel safe. There's all of those things. And I think that's the bucket that is harder to fix. I've noticed in the contacts in other industries, we're always quick to do the meaning from work thing. Here's some goodies, here's some that, and that's great. But that is only half of the equation. This squishy part, the Bob has been pushing us for these decades of like, that's the meaning at work. There is no money on earth that is ever going to give you that. All it's going to do is just help that meaning from work. And that frame, Bob, really helped me be able to articulate it in a better way.
Well, the meaning at work is these relational things that we're talking
Correct.
about. It's the
Correct.
ability to feel that I'm making a difference, what I'm doing. And I think we've all talked to those people,
Yes.
right? If
Yes.
you've been on a call with somebody through that lens. So here's my challenge to the listeners
Yes.
after hearing what you just said. So for the next couple of weeks, every time you talk to somebody on a phone call that's a business to business call, you're calling a business. Think about that lens. Did the person that you talked to, or the person that you walked into the call into the office and talked to, or the person that you went to the store, were they there getting meaning from work and relaying that to you, or were they there getting meaning at work? Right? Because we've talked to those people, we've talked to those friendly, they just have a little bit more in their pep. I checked in this morning at a doctor's office before I got online, and the first girl had meaning from work.
Yep.
I
get
friendly
paid.
and nice, and the one that checked me in, the next level, was evidently just getting a paycheck. Right, because she just wanted to check the boxes. She wasn't looking at me as a patient, as a person, as who I want to be. And so I think this show has been really good to challenge in a couple of different ways. Am I offering hope? Am I offering compassion? Am I offering trust? Am I offering stability? Am I offering safetyness? Like, where am I as a person in my leadership style?
That's beautiful. I think that's a great place to leave it. Bob, it's good to see you, man. And once again, for our listeners and people who are watching, please, the best way to support and spread the word about our show is like, subscribe.
Sorry about that.
Apparently, Bob dropped a dish or something there. Like, subscribe, comment, reach out to Bob and I on LinkedIn is our best medium. But anywhere you can reach us, we love to talk about this stuff. So please keep that coming.
Thanks, Amos.
See you next week.
Okay.